everyone, and welcome back to Nubeva's channel. We're sitting here once again with Randy, and we have an exciting press release to get into. But first off, Randy, how are you doing today?
Excellent. Life is actually becoming more and more normal now in the United States and California. I'm literally between meetings sitting in a car. So I'm
Wow.
actually going out and meeting people. So what a change, what a concept.
Yeah.
Actually meeting people in person. So
Yeah,
I'm
that's
really
surprising.
excited about that. I'm really excited. Coming back to your question, I'm really excited about that actually.
Yeah, no, it is really wonderful. I mean, everybody's been cooped up for so long. We're social creatures, Randy. We need to see people.
Yes.
We need to talk to them. It makes business a lot more pleasant to actually get to know and talk to people in person. So I'm happy for you. And
Thank you. Certainly for me, I need to meet people. I need to get out of the house.
Fair. All right, so let's dive in here. So you guys announced first end user customer win in a 5G telecommunication market. So first off,
Right.
Randy, this looks like a very important milestone for Nubeva. Can you tell us more about what this win really represents?
Absolutely. I think we talked about this maybe 2 or 3 sessions ago about how we are focusing in the 5G and telecom world.
Mhm.
This particular case, we not only have a win, but we have folks putting it in production. And that's always the very most important thing. It doesn't matter what kind of startup you're in. You want as many people not only using it, but truly putting it in production. So in other words, they're not just testing this. This isn't just a POC. They're not just running it in a lab, or they're not just running it in some situation that it's low risk for them.
Mhm.
You want someone to truly run it like they run everything else that's important for their business. And so this is literally our first one where it isn't just a 5G telecom, but at the same time, it's in production. And so that's really critical for us. Okay. And so as I shared before previously, one of the reasons why we're focusing in this area to begin with is because everything is going to TLS 1.3. And so when you sit down on paper and you ask someone, that's operating telecom, whether it's cell phone or anything else communication wise, they have a number of different types of tools to figure out when things are working well. For example, in this call where I can see you can see me, there's no delay, there's no echoes, there's nothing else, right? There's a numerous types of tools that detect whether this communication or this call is going well versus not going well, as opposed to just getting reviews between you and me saying, okay, this is great, I gave it 5 star, or this is horrible, I give it 1 star. So there's a lot of tools out there to figure that out. Okay. Now, if you go into the 5G telecom world or the TLS 1.3 world, now everything is not only encrypted, but perfect for secrecy encrypted. So in other words, there's no more ability for any tool to have a man-in-the-middle attack to figure out, did this connection drop? Is it continuing? Is there latency? Is there echoes or anything else? So if you want to know if there's echoes or not, if you want to know if the call is going well, you have to be able to see the entire call.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's encrypted, well, you must decrypt that. So on paper, our technology has always been almost custom made for this industry, right? So this industry is coming. They're moving to TLS 1.3. We are the only solution out there that doesn't use man in the middle, and you can get decryption and you can see the data itself. On paper, it look great, but like they say, we say in sports, you still have to play the game. You still have to make sure it indeed works. There's a lot of things that get revealed when you put it into testing and ultimately in production. And so getting it into production is the ultimate validation, knowing what we thought is true, what the customer thought is true. We put it all together. We agreed the pricing and everything else, and they're actually now using it. So that's really exciting for us. For those of us in startup world, when somebody not only tests it out, decides to pay for it, but ultimately puts it in production, is the best. This is the high of the high.
Yeah. I guess the easiest way I would say it is you had talked the talk and now you're walking the walk. I'd say it's not just talking now. It's now been executed and it's doing its job, which is wonderful. But here, let me hop on into this next one here. So
sure, please.
Can you give people a breakdown on what a tier 1 network operator is? Can you give them for someone who's like not quite so technologically inclined?
Yeah, without getting into we obviously don't have permission from the operator to announce who they are. Otherwise, we would have put their name on the press release. So without going into that, it would be the telecom or the industry in which you and I make typical calls. If we get on a cell phone call or we have any sort of telecommunication connection between different parties that you and I, the end consumer, are familiar with, or brands that you're familiar with, or in general you use. It wouldn't be something that I would have to sit down and educate you. Have you heard of this entity before or this brand before? It wouldn't be anything like that. It would be household brands that we depend on for many different things that when we think about telecommunications, it comes to mind.
Okay,
so that would be what we consider a tier 1. Yep.
So this is a system that's well tested and well used every day
Oh,
amongst,
absolutely,
amongst the world.
absolutely,
Perfect.
heavily
Okay.
used, heavily used.
Wonderful, wonderful.
The
So
world,
getting,
the world wouldn't function without it. Let's put it this way.
sounds like a heavy hitter, Randy. It sounds like a real heavy hitter.
Yes.
So
There you go.
moving on to this last question, and this one's a little more speculative, but I want to know,
Yep.
you mentioned that this really validates your industry and improves the viability of the products. But what is the next big milestone that you see coming that would really establish it?
So a couple of them. Obviously, when you first get into production, you want to make sure that over a period of time, we don't get support tickets, or we don't get too many of them.
Mhm.
So one of the things I think I shared in our last call or the one before, our largest customer this year gave us 2 support tickets. We're in June now, and we only got 2 support tickets. So we want to be in this 5G telecom world. We want something similar. Obviously, 2 tickets for an entire half a year, that would be averaging 4 tickets a year. That's phenomenal. That would be beyond phenomenal. We're not shooting for that, obviously, but at the same time, we want something that we can sustain. In other words, we're not investing overly on support or wholesale support to help this production system continue functioning.
Mhm.
So that's the first thing, right? So we want something that we feel is absolutely sustainable for our business. In other words, I don't wake up on a Friday night saying, "Oh my God, this tier one is calling us. They have a ticket, and we got to deal with that."
Yeah.
So that's obviously a joke. That's on the worst case. So that's the first one. The second one is we want to win more. We want more tier one, not just tier one, tier two, and tier three. The reality is tier ones tend to be high profile. They're well funded. Obviously, we want the tier ones, but at the same time, tier ones are, because they're well funded, they're well staffed. So a lot of times when a customer that is a tier one has issues, they may be able to solve them, whereas a tier two or tier three or smaller customer may not solve it. So like I mentioned, we want to be able to sell to the best of the best, get large deals. At the same time, we want to go into production. And then once in production, we want to make sure it's sustainable. Well, we want to be able to sell to people that are potentially not as sophisticated. They don't have a sophisticated support team themselves, and they don't overwhelm us with support tickets. So this is where, once you know whether the product actually works, it functions well in production, and at the same time, we want it to be able to sustain even for people that are not so sophisticated from a support standpoint.
Yeah,
so those are the 2 points I would make.
It makes sense. So as the product gets rolled out here, I would imagine that would be a process of refining it and making it as good as possible and as easy to use and not have
Easy to
issues.
use.
Yeah.
Exactly. And not have to sell it to a rocket scientist. That would be the exaggeration of that point. Yeah.
Fair enough, Randy. Well, thank you for coming on and thank you for sharing your thoughts on it. And the congrats on the win, of course. And
thank you very much.
if anyone
Always a
has any
pleasure.
questions, yep, of course. If anyone has any questions, don't be afraid to send them over to us. We'll be happy to answer anything you guys got for us. Randy, have a wonderful day.
Great. You too. Thank you.